Hi, I'm Adam, and it just so happens my last name is also Youngblood, but I promise you, I am in no way related to the Youngblood Vineyard or their owners. And thank God for that. And to that, neither is my beautiful wife, Lori. I wrote down these notes because I have a lot to cover, and I didn't want this whole video to be some faceless, bad review. I am a real person, and this is a real review. And please, check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. You'll see that we're fun, loving, easygoing people, just normal people. Now, you're probably watching this video because if you're anything like me or my wife, you scoured the internet to find as much info as you could to make the best decision about every single piece and part of your wedding, of your big day, right? So it would be perfect. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how Dave and Jess Youngblood, the owners of Youngblood Vineyards in Ray, Michigan, caused us an insane amount of undue stress, eventually ruining the wedding that we spent almost a year planning, and more importantly, show you that they are terrible business people. And honestly, just nasty people. Dave far more than Jess. And let me be clear, Dave is a nasty person. But the fact that Jess went along with all of this speaks volumes. The first time we went out there was in September of 2020. I remember this because we were supposed to get married in Hawaii of September 2020, but due to COVID, that didn't happen. My then fiance and I went out there after seeing a sign for Youngblood Vineyards on one of our local highways and thought how corny but interesting it would be to get married there. We looked at photos online, we scoured a little bit, but we really couldn't find much information. My wife then reached out to them and they said, absolutely, please come out. We'll show you around, you can check it out, and you can see how we do this. Now, before I get into the content, it's worth mentioning that we really only worked with Jess almost the entire time. From that September, that first time we went out there, all the way to the very end, essentially leading up 1 week prior to our wedding date. We worked with Jess the entire time. The only time we ever met Dave is when we went out there that very first time, and near the end of it, she called him over to open up the barn so they could show us their new tables and chairs. So other than that, we never worked with him. We never saw him. And to be just quite fair, the tables and chairs were beautiful. The vineyard was quite beautiful, if you like that outdoorsy vineyard feel. But with that said, things turned sour very quickly. Or I should say, they weren't very quickly, but they turned sour a week before our wedding very quickly. And I want to get into that content now, kind of show you where everything started. I'm going to use a timeline because as I'm sure you're planning your wedding, everything starts with the timeline. Where are we today? At the end of the timeline being that big day, that wedding day. And we spent 9 months or almost 10 months planning, and enough. I know people have spent 2 years or 3 years planning their wedding, and to come all the way up to that 1 day or 1 week mark, to have everything thrown into disarray, in the manner that it was just completely shocking. You may ask, 2020, it's 2022, it's March, almost April 2022. Why are you doing this now? I wanted to do this earlier. I couldn't write enough information in a review to capture the level of just utter confusion and dismay. So I wanted to do a video, but we had an amazing wedding. So we ended up still having a wedding, much smaller wedding, in a different venue. And I didn't want to revisit this. This is, as you'll see, it's again, shocking, dismay. So I didn't want to do this. But I had some time. I wanted to get this video out there. With that said, let's get into it. We're going to start with a timeline at the bottom starting in September of 2020, and as I progress through the content, it will end on our big day. But for now, let's rewind and start back at the beginning. What we are looking at here is a Google Maps satellite view of Youngblood Vineyard. In the top right, you see a U-shaped driveway. The one closer to the top is their main entrance with the brown building, which I'm pretty sure is their home. And then as you wrap around the horseshoe-shaped driveway, the gray driveway there, you go to the yellow barn that I mentioned earlier, which is where the tables and chairs were stored. Now, if we look on the left side of this image, you'll see a couple colors and shapes. I just want to call out a couple things here that just to make them very clear. The green shape was our desired location, and the yellow shape was also another secondary location. More or less, they pushed us towards the green location, as the yellow location had longer grass, but it was very good for having an actual, like with the wedding ceremony there. And the green location was our preferred location. It's called the Lower Vineyard Field. So that's very key. It's in the contract. It's where we wanted to get married. Again, it's actually quite beautiful. And then the red line is depicting if you were to have a wedding down one of the rows of the vineyard, one of the you can essentially fit a table and some chairs, and that's again quite beautiful. But we chose to go with the green area called the Lower Vineyard Field. What we're looking at now is the first invoice that was sent over to us. You can see it's from Jess Youngblood. Actually, it's from the Square system, but you can see it's replied to Jess Youngblood, which is the owner, one of the owners of Youngblood Vineyards. And I did blur some stuff on the left. It just doesn't matter. But take time. If you want to pause the video, you can read through all the text. I'm not going to blur out really any of the text except maybe some of the sensitive stuff. So you can see here that customer, our address was here, so I blurred that out. But the rest of it, you can just read through it. Please, I'm not going to read everything word for word. I will call out a few things that I see important. But besides for that, I'm going to move pretty quickly through these, as there's a lot of email, as that was the main communication. As you can see, we've fast forwarded to January, so the bar at the bottom has moved. The one thing I did want to call out is what we see right here that I've highlighted. The vineyard venue, a fee of $1,500, includes access to the Lower Vineyard Field after 10 a.m. on our date for setup, right? So here it's very clear that we are requesting to be put on the Lower Vineyard Field for setup, and it's the things you see below. So it's tables, chairs, a smaller tent, the bathrooms, etc. This is key because they are setting up a tent as a part of this initial agreement. Now, there is no second tent. There is no large tent that will be covering the people. As you can see, this tent here will set up for food and cake and gifts, etc. We still needed to get a tent for our guests, right? For the dance floor and the DJ and all that. And we were working on that. So I'm going to pull up that invoice here just in 1 second. But it's very important that this invoice does state the Lower Vineyard Field. Here you can see just a quick breakdown of the different prices, the tables and the chairs, the wine reception, white tent, so the 21 by 29 tent that I just mentioned earlier that'll house cake and food, etc. One thing I want to call out here is the luxury mobile restrooms. They're charging you $1,500 to use restrooms. Can you imagine going to another wedding venue, whether it's indoor or outdoor, and they're saying, well, we're going to charge you for our bathrooms? I thought that was kind of odd, but again, it's outdoor. There's not many vineyards in Southeast Michigan, and we just bit the bullet. Two notes here I want to just add real quick. They were very clear that they did not have a second tent at this time. So September, October, November, December, coming to January, they got the terms and conditions. We got everything figured out, and they sent us that invoice. You can see there is no tent on that. Very clear. And they were very clear about not having tent. Also, you can see, we're 4 months in, all of September, we're into January. At this point in time, in your plan, you're probably already, you have the venue, you put a deposit down, and you're starting to get flowers and the DJ and you're getting the food, you're figuring out all of those things that you need, and you're putting all of that stuff into motion, knowing that this is the venue that you're picking. Now, this probably isn't needed for me to show this, but this is one of the 3 tent rental agreements that we went out and got. You can see now we're at the end of February 26th to be exact, and we did plan on renting a tent and bringing it in. Now, that quote, $5,500, wasn't just for the tent. They threw in a bunch of other stuff that we didn't need, but I think they were just trying to get business. This was pre-COVID, February 26, 2020, pre-COVID. There was chairs and tables and a bunch of other stuff that we didn't want because we knew the vineyard was providing those. But again, the point here is that we did try to get a tent on February, many tents, but this is just one of them, prior to February 26 of 2020. So here you can see Youngblood Vineyard on Facebook. My wife reached out to them February 27th, so the next day, to check on the tent size. We weren't sure if it was 40 by 80, 40 by 60, what was best to kind of fit the space that we picked. And then we had some other questions too, and you can see Jess got back to us pretty quickly. 151 we sent it at. She got back to us 518 the same day. And had a lot of, she was very helpful. But if you look on the right there, she said, yes, we do have we never asked if they had a tent. We just had some questions because we were going to rent the tent. And I said, is there enough space for that, and do you allow that? She responded, yes. We do have a 40 by 80 tent in addition to the smaller 21 by 29 foot tent you've reserved. This is the first time we heard of this. And actually, you can see she gave her phone number there. And we did give her a call, and again, she was very helpful. She's like, yeah, we got this new tent. It's awesome. We're going to save you guys a bunch of money and work. And we're like, honestly, that's great. This does save us a headache, because now the tables and the chairs and the tent and everything will be set up together, and we don't have to worry about that. Wonderful. I should note that maybe we assumed wrong, or we just assumed it all, but obviously we assumed that this would also be in the lower vineyard field. But I want to be clear, it doesn't matter what we assumed. We had a contract, as you would with all of your vendors, as you will with Youngblood Vineyard, that detailed that it would be in the lower vineyard field. So now we are into April. You can see below payment 2 at the very bottom, due on April 26th. It's paid. So you can see we've paid our 3 deposits, and they've at the very top, if you look, you can see edited on 2/28 when we talked, and when I said we called her. Added the 40 by 80 tent with optional sides, windows, and lighting. Added a 20 by 20 wood dance floor, another thing that we would have to rent, so that was nice. And you can see the total here is $10,000. $10,000. Just, you can go to a lot of nice venues in Metro Detroit, and $10,000 buys you all the food, all the booze, all the beer, the bathrooms, the dance floor, everything. Sometimes they even have a DJ there for 10 grand. So keep that in mind. We're literally just walking in the door, getting tables, chairs, and a tent over our head, on spending $10,000. And what you're about to hear isn't worth $1,000, let alone $10,000. So the days and the weeks and the months are passing. We're planning, as you will be, all of the parts and pieces of your wedding, the catering and the lighting and the desserts and the table settings and the chairs and the chair covers, or all the things that you have to do for all of these months. And that brings us to June 13th, approximately 2 weeks prior to our wedding. And Jess and Lori were talking on Facebook, and they said, Jess goes, hey, why don't you come out? We'll do a walkthrough, and we'll just make sure we have all of our ducks in a row and get everything ready. And we're like, great, we'll head out that way and see you Sunday. So as we pull up, we can see from the street a very large tent directly behind the house. And I literally gasped at Lori. I said, what is that? That's not where the tent's gonna, that's, maybe they had a wedding, maybe they had an event. And again, kind of a long story short, this is when Jess broke it to us that they're not moving the tent. And she said it very nicely. It wasn't very, we're not doing it. It was, this is where the tent is, and, we can still kind of do your thing down on the lower vineyard field, but, if you want that, we can figure it out, and kind of wishy-washy. And we left there going, well, this is really confusing, and this isn't what we agreed upon, and it's not what is in the contract. And we were kind of scratching our heads. And we said, I ended up telling my then fiance, hey, can you reach out to Jess and let's get on the phone and try to hash this out, what's going on. We had about a 20-minute call, and about 3 minutes in, Jess goes, well, hold on, and hands the phone to her husband. And we start talking, and he's like, yeah, I just, this and that and this and that. And we were so shocked and taken back by what he was saying that I quickly got out my phone and started to record this conversation. I was flabbergasted, and I think you will be too. And this is just the start of what is to come.
Want to proceed, then that is certainly is your choice, and we will refund that money. But we are not going to move the tent or a dance floor. The big tent, the small tent, everything that we agreed to, that you based everything on, the wedding, the restroom trailer, all of those things. I will do everything that was in the original contract.
Let's break that down for just 1 second. Unfortunately, that's right when I hit record, so I don't have the thing that he was saying just before, but essentially we were expressing displeasure in him, the location of the tent and their unwillingness to move it. And he was saying, well, whether you want to or don't want to proceed, that's your choice, and we'll refund the money. It's 11 days before our wedding. And the venue that we booked 9 months ago is telling us that if we want to cancel, we can. That's our choice. And that he'd honor everything in our original agreement. Now, if you recall, the original agreement was the first invoice that was around $7,000. As soon as they wrote the terms, right? That's their contract. As soon as I pay, I accept those terms, and I'm bound to those terms. The second contract was written, I think, February 28th when we talked to Jess. We then paid in February and in April, I think were the dates, but for sure in April. And it was updated to add the additional tent. No additional terms, no additional questions, no additional content, nothing relating to where the tent was going to be set up or not set up. They said,
based on the experiences that we've had here 2 times, it is a serious liability concern to put the big tent in the back. Now, maybe last fall I didn't appreciate that as fully as I do now.
Well, there you go. So as I was saying, I don't have them. I don't have any recording or any record of them saying, yes, we'll set it up in the Lower Vineyard field. But I do have a recording just now of him saying that I don't want to set it up in the Lower Vineyard field, as I told you last fall and over the winter. So we're really scratching our head here going, what is this guy? Where did this come from, and where is this going?
But we're not moving the tent or dance floor back to the back area. I just cannot do that.
Okay, yeah, I gotta say, this isn't a good look for a wedding, destination that's just starting out. I will say that we have 25 weddings, and 24 of them have no issue with this change. So I'll just throw that out to you when you want to talk about expectations and sales and what's expected. I'll throw out that there needs to be some give and take on both sides, and that out of 25 folks, there were 24 folks, including the wedding that we just had. I could keep going with this, but I think you get the point. I am at a loss of words. Almost listening to this, I'm at a loss of words again. And we're on mute, with David there, and you can hear my then fiance talking to me. We're like slack jaw in awe at what he is saying. He's essentially blaming us now for not being okay with, as he puts it, verbatim, this change. He also said something about 24 out of 25 weddings. Well, we're one of those 25, right? We also found out that the wedding that was the Saturday prior also wasn't okay with it. So he's just lying to us. He's literally blaming us, gaslighting us that we're the problem now. And he's not held to any type of contract or standard that we've paid. So this goes on for another 12 minutes. We talk to Dave. Jess doesn't say a word. And just to be clear, before this phone call, we interacted with Dave once for about 30 seconds at the barn. He's never been involved in any part of any of these negotiations once the contract was written, and all the communication, both through email with Jess and through Facebook with Youngblood Vineyard. Also Jess. She signed her name and gave her phone number. So cooler heads prevailed. Lori and I essentially just sat there like, what just happened? We can't not have a tent. This is mind-blowing. But we'll figure this out. We'll figure it out. So at this time, we've went out there. We've had the phone call where he was essentially blaming us, accosting us, and Lori and I put our heads together and said, this guy is a little crazy. We should just try to salvage what we can. We have days until our wedding. So I write a very professional email, and I copy my lawyer and my wedding planner that we just hired, literally days before, going, this is, we need somebody. This event is going haywire. We don't know what's going to happen. We need someone that can be there and start planning this now. We did not have a wedding planner the previous day. I literally called a bunch of people, got this wedding planner, and got her on board for about $2,600, which we weren't planning on spending. It was the peace of mind because everything was literally going in the garbage. So you can read through this email. We did agree upon the Lower Vineyard field. It's probably hard to see here, but this is that same map. It's the large tent for the guests, the smaller tent for setup and prep. This is parking up here, parking here, I think is what they said as well.
And then this is the revised version. And I will blow this one up here right now. And this is where they set up the tent and where they will not move it from. And also the dance floor. The dance floor, which I will show right here, was all the way to the right side of the tent. So to the tables all the way at the back, couldn't see anything. That you're never going to see. I've never seen where the dance floor is completely on one side of the room, and the people are on the other side of the room. Usually the tables go around the dance floor. Well, come to find out, if you read through this, they did poor planning. They bought a dance floor either that's too big or a tent that didn't really fit all that well. The other thing is he also admits here that due to the weight and the size of the tent that they bought, it can't be moved easily. It's much harder to move it. It takes an entire day and a crew to set it up and take it down. And this is really the first time that he said that. And also, it's very interesting up above again, right here. The reality is that any discussion of the tent was transient at best. You specifically were ambiguous, wanting a tent. We weren't. Back in February, we got 3 quotes. Again, he's blaming us here that I have a narrative in my head, making this up. You've made up a narrative in your own mind that has never existed, either in reality or on paper. We actually do have it on paper. So it's again, he's accusing us. We're trying to be reasonable. We're trying to figure out how can we salvage this. The dance floor can't be moved. Fine, it can't be moved. It is what it is. That we can't solve. So the other item that we wanted to solve, my fiance and I wanted to solve, was the fact that now we're paying $10,000 to have a backyard wedding. And I was hoping that Dave and Jess would be reasonable and go with a recommendation that our wedding planner said is we can rent greenery. It was a couple $1,000s, but at this point in time, they have already breached the contract, and we're trying to figure out how can we salvage it. Hopefully you'll work with us. As you can see, it was a hard no that he would not work with us. He wouldn't even provide any type of assistance to get the greener in, whether it's financial or doing it himself. So it was, he says, he wants to work with us and he wants to make it easy. But when I give him options to help alleviate his breach of contract, it's a hard no. I mean, you want to work with us or no? This was my first email to him, copying my lawyer and then also copying the wedding planner, and that was his response. So you might be thinking, Adam, come on. You are being a little unreasonable, but this is what we're looking at. So we went, I guess, kind of walk the progression with me. We were promised contractually and verbally to a lower vineyard field wedding. Not a house in sight, not a car in sight, no power poles, no buildings. There's birds, there's bees, there's nature, there's greenery, there's grapes. It is beautiful. And now what are we looking at? We're looking at the back of a house. We're looking at a porta potty. We're looking at garbage cans. We're paying $10,000 for a backyard wedding. And my ask was, can we cover that up with some fake or real greenery that might cost a couple $1,000s? Because you already breached the contract. Let's be clear here. I'm trying to be flexible. I'm trying to salvage the air quote vineyard wedding. And he, David, and Jess, but specifically David, is saying absolutely not. On one hand, he's saying we'll be super flexible and do everything we can to make it successful. And then in the next breath, we'll do nothing to make it what you envisioned. This is what the wedding will look like. Toilets, garbage, and a house. Not a vineyard wedding. A $10,000 backyard wedding. Now you may go there and think, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And you know what? We probably would have too. But this isn't the bag of goods that we were sold. This isn't the bag of goods that we bought. This isn't the bag of goods that we paid for. We paid for a vineyard wedding. Again, not a backyard wedding. So when you go there, you're going to have the context. The tent's already up. This is the venue. If you want to pay the money, you pay the money. If you don't, you don't. This wasn't a thing back in January, back in December, back in September, back in mid-February. They didn't tell us about this until February 28th. I should say they didn't tell us about the tent until February 28th. They didn't tell us where it was going to be at all until the middle of June, just a few days before our wedding. While you look at the trash can behind the blue porta potty sticking out like a sore thumb, my lawyer called Dave to try to smooth things over and, to be honest, just try to jam through as much as he could. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's what lawyers do. Hey, this is what the contract said. This is what my client wants. Let's just get it done, and then we don't have to worry about anything. So he did that. He then called me back and said, oh my gosh, I'm going to censor what he said. I don't know what to tell you, because he literally yelled at me for about 30 minutes of our 45-minute conversation, was screaming at me saying, Adam's not going to hire a lawyer to come bully me. I'm a lawyer too. And was belligerent with, supposedly, if he's a lawyer, with one of his peers. And they ended up, my lawyer said I was able to calm him down. We talked, that we obviously want this resolution. It's our big day. And was able to negotiate a discount for the tent, because within the terms and conditions, it clearly states that it's for setup and breakdown of the tent. Well, the tent isn't being set up or broken down. It was set up once, and it's not being broken down again. So they were able to negotiate, my lawyer was able to negotiate it down from $2,000 to $1,000. I wanted it at $0, and that would have covered the cost of the greenery. But again, Dave wouldn't budge. He brought it down to $1,000, and then he also gave us a couple other discounts on power, which he already agreed to previously, which brought it to $1,590, as you can see here. However, he added an additional term to this contract. So if I would have accepted this in the terms of, if I would have made a payment, he added a term for hold harmless. Essentially, Youngblood Vineyards, Dave Youngblood, Jess Youngblood, could do whatever they want, and they will not be held accountable. Meaning we could show up, and there could be no tent. Maybe they're not home. Dave comes in and kicks the wedding cake over. Whatever. They wouldn't be held responsible at all. So I'm sure he's adding this to all his current contracts. If this is in there, absolutely remove it and send it back to him. And if he doesn't accept that, I would never book this place with a hold harmless, with knowing what you're about to see and knowing what I know. So we didn't accept this. As you can see here in this email, we did not accept it. And when I say we didn't accept it, we didn't accept the discount, because when we accepted the discount and then would pay for it, that means we agreed to the new terms, which my lawyer was adamant that I didn't accept those and just pay the full price after his interaction with Dave. Also in this email, he's getting extremely petty. Jess agreed to a 6-hour time block when he called us earlier in the week. I think it was maybe like the 19th or 20th, 21st. I forget the exact day. I don't have a record of that. I should say that he also liked to communicate over voice, because it can't be tracked or recorded versus email, which I wanted everything documented for obvious reasons. But he was like, you have a 6-hour, our wedding planner sent him our schedule, and he's like, you have a 6-hour block here. That's not what the package is. It's only 4 hours. So I had to go dig up, actually my wife had to go dig up, her fiance had to go dig up the conversation that Youngblood Vineyard had with my wife, or my fiance, which is those attached screen captures. But then he also gets extremely petty with the $500 discount on the trailer power. So the idea was we had to use the generator down on the lower vineyard field to power the trailer, because the trailer was going to be next to the house. He could just plug it into the house. He said multiple times that he would give us a $500 discount because of that. We don't need to use the generator. And now I'm asking for that because it was a previously agreed upon term, and he's saying, well, can you show me where I said that? Obviously, I don't have that because it was all verbal. Again, the reason I wanted everything documented. So here's where things get even more interesting. June of 2021 was one of the wettest Junes we've ever had in Michigan, in southeast Michigan specifically. It started on Sunday night, big storm rolled through. Sunday night the 19th, I think it was. Big storm rolled through, a lot of rain, some wind. Same thing on Monday, some more rain. I think Tuesday it wasn't too bad, but the damage was already done. Roads were flooded, highways were flooded, basements were flooded. And then it kept raining. It rained some on Wednesday. I think it was dry on Thursday. And then you can see here, Friday, Detroit received a record almost 2 inches more. And then on Saturday, the day of our wedding, it rained another 0.39 inches, right? So I think you can kind of see where I'm going. A lot of rain up to the wedding day, but also the week before our wedding day. So like the 20th, the 21st, 22nd. It was a very, very wet, humid, muggy June week. So we jump ahead just a little bit to June 24th, around noon, 2 days prior to our wedding. Less than 2 days before people start to show up. And Dave sends us an email stating that there has been damage due to the storm on Monday. So it's Thursday, and the damage was done on Monday, as you can see here. Prior to the storm damage on Monday of this week, we had been engaged in a typical contract dispute. My view is the natural disaster has rendered our previous contract null and void. I do not believe there's any question that the storm on Monday was a natural phenomenon, yada, yada, yada. You can read this. Essentially just saying, hey, I'm going to cancel the invoice. And, it wouldn't be fair to pass expenses on to me. You're the one running the business. I don't need, you're the one that has the contract. But, if the tent is salvageable, the tables are salvageable, we're more than willing to move forward. And again, here you can see his preference would be to cancel our reception. 2 days, less than 2 days before people show up. I'm a married man sitting here like cringing at this business writing this email and thinking that this is acceptable. Dave writing it, his wife reading it, and her going along with it, thinking that this is acceptable. To Dave, very professional, very straightforward. Just give us an assessment and get back to us. That's it. Within minutes, so you can see I sent the original email at 3 p.m. and then the second email comes at 5:22 p.m. that same day. Within that time frame, my wife got a notification from Square that our invoice was canceled. I mean, how do you take from that? Our invoice is canceled. What is that even? So did he just cancel the wedding? He literally says that he has reason to believe that he can host it, and then we get a cancellation from Square. At this time, I'm freaking out. My wife's about to have a mental breakdown. And we really don't know we don't know what to do. And this isn't a story about me anymore. I'm hopefully preparing you or showing you how absolutely nutso this dude really is. So this is a continuation of the previous email, just the next two threads. And you can see he responds with, "Oh, now you want me to advise you? My advice is to stop being unreasonable starting 2 weeks ago, that I still try to do everything in my power to see if I can pull off the impossible. Like my crew of 6 are doing right now in the fucking rain. Trying to act like a human, that's my advice." So now he's insulting me and swearing at me. And to this point, my wife is over the top, and I'm trying to contain it for her and not take it out on Dave. I've been very professional, and at this point in time, I boiled over a little, and I said the facts, and I'm going to read it out loud. "Dave, I'm sorry that you feel that way after you breached your end of the contract and many personal conversations between your wife and us. I'm not sure if you're trying to save face, or if you two do not communicate appropriately, and she has made promises that you may or may not have been true, or that he may or may not have known. For example, the 6-hour block of time versus the 4-hour block of time referenced in one of your previous emails, or also referenced in Lori and Jessica's Facebook conversations. Asking for a small discount on a tent that you do not have to set up and tear down, as well as helping us out with some greenery to make the area look a little bit better, did not seem unreasonable. Also, and this really burned my behind, because it's Thursday at 8 p.m. Our wedding is in 36 hours. Thursday, the storms rolled through. Or, sorry, I said also today is Thursday and the storms rolled through Sunday night. The pictures you sent me dated Monday, 6:34 a.m. Why did you mention to our wedding planner on Tuesday via email that everything was fine and completely changed your story Wednesday? I don't know, and at this point, I don't care. I am not sure what your goal was with the canceled invoice, but I can see that this business arrangement is degraded to a point where I don't feel we can continue. I don't feel confident that you and Youngblood Vineyards, or Youngblood Vineyards, can confidently execute our wedding. So he literally took photos Monday morning after the storms rolled through, held on to them. Our wedding planner emailed him just to verify a few things, and told us Wednesday and Thursday that, hey, there's some damage and we're going to check it out. And then Thursday in the email I just showed you earlier, just above this chain, that he has to hire a crew of 6 and he doesn't know if he can pull it off, but he's going to do everything that he can to pull it off. Well, wait, why did it take you to Thursday to tell me? This is mind-blowing. It's so manipulative. It's so controlling. This isn't how you run a business. And then here we go. Here's his response. I'm not trying to save face, you self-absorbed, entitled jackass. I've been working all night to see if your wedding could be saved. Hold on. You took the pictures Monday morning at 6 a.m. And it's Thursday, June 24th at 10:30 p.m. It's almost nearly 5 days later. And you're working all night now? So I think the words you are searching for are thank you. I told you I was canceling your invoice earlier today and creating a new one. He did not. Sorry if we haven't been as responsive as you would like. We've been a little busy. We did a new invoice in part because there was no more space to edit your invoice because you've been such a ridiculous asshole for days on end, refusing to even come out and discuss your own damn wedding, instead calling a lawyer over tent placement, like any reasonable human would do. So again, he's being extremely professional. And like my lawyer said when he talked to him earlier, he's flying off the handle and acting like a complete nutball. So just to be clear, back to his letter here, his email. So just to be clear, we just got the tent back up. You may be doing your wedding here if you would like, per the most recent invoice, or not. Does not matter to me. If you show up Saturday, have a cashier's check for $7,070. If you don't show up, I will refund your $3,000 deposit and smile from ear to ear. Dave. This is the guy who you're going to depend on for everything on your big day. Again, maybe I was unreasonable. Maybe asking for a discount on the tent, asking for him helping out with the greenery to cover up the house and the porta potty and the garbage cans, because we weren't getting this vineyard look you see in the background. That's not, obviously this looks like it's in California or Hawaii or something. There's palm trees. But this is what we were expecting. If you go down the lower vineyard field in May or June or July, essentially this is what it looks like. It has greenery as far as you can see. There's no buildings. There's no cars or driveways or toilets or garbage cans. It's a vineyard. So yeah, maybe I was a little unreasonable, trying to be reasonable with him, trying to negotiate with him. Hey, it's a $10,000 backyard wedding, dude. Can we figure something out? And it was always a hard no. He was going to give me a $1,500 discount on a tent that he didn't ever have to set up or break down again. So, yeah, again, I'll say it again. Maybe I was being a little unreasonable, but he was being extremely unreasonable, abrasive, unprofessional. And the stress, the undue stress that he achieved I wouldn't wish on my enemies for their weddings or their big days or their bar mitzvahs or birthday, anything, any type of event. I wouldn't wish it on them, let alone a bride and groom that are planning their wedding 6 months or a year or 18 months or 2 years ahead of time, to come to 10 days before, 11 days before, and essentially have everything thrown up into the air, and have a personality and a business owner on the other end, such as what you're seeing in these emails and in that phone conversation. So there is a happy ending. We did have an amazing wedding. Somewhere on the 24th or 20, I think it was the 24th, I realized that this dude is nutso. I don't want anything to do with him. And we started figuring out another venue, which was the church. We got married at St. Sharbel Church in Sterling Heights. Beautiful church, beautiful reception hall. We got very lucky. And at the end of the day, it all worked out. And I know this is a long video and a lot of drama, but all the drama at the end of this day, when I was kissing my wife here and we talked about it, it was worth it, because it rained and rained and rained. And even if we had the reception on the upper, backyard wedding, the grass would have been soggy. There would have been mud everywhere. It was still raining on Saturday. It was extremely humid and hot. I think it was something like 84, 85 degrees. And when the sun came out, it was extremely hot. When the sun wasn't out, it was extremely humid. And as you can see, it was a little breezy. There were still clouds coming through. You can see it's a little overcast, but we did get some sun. And we had an amazing wedding. But the drama doesn't stop there. Mr. Nutso strikes again. I know it's hard to believe, but he does. Look at this. So my wife leaves a Google review, all based on facts, exactly what happened, and pretty factual. And actually, I am mentally exhausted from this video, going back through all this content. And I missed some stuff, and she didn't. And I was reading this, and I hope you do too. The reason the way the dates, if you go back and look at all the dates, the reason he had us, he added the hold harmless, is because of the storm. The storm happened on Monday. He didn't tell us on Monday. He didn't tell us on Tuesday. On Tuesday is when he sent us the updated contract with the discount on the hold harmless. He didn't tell us Wednesday. We found out on Wednesday, on midday, on their Facebook group. They didn't even message us. And Lori captures all of that here. So they are doing extremely shady stuff with us. And essentially he got caught, and that's when he started to swear at me. But when I say Mr. Nutso strikes again, and baked into this one review, I'll pull it up here, and he says, you still had your wedding reception at the church where you got married. Oh my goodness. Is this guy, is he stalking? So he blocked us. He blocked us like on the 25th or I think it was the 25th from Youngblood Vineyard. We couldn't comment or like or anything. But is it Instagram, or like, is he searching the internet for our wedding website? Is he that infatuated? He's literally nuts. So this is what we have to deal with. And what's interesting, and one of the things that spurred me to create this review, and we're going on 40 minutes kind of unedited. I'll probably get it down around 35. But 40 minutes unedited, is that this review and the Yelp reviews are gone. So they reported them for whatever reason. He does actually comment one thing I fully agree with, and I told Lori to tell her friends not to do this, is a bunch of her friends that have never been there, who had a bad taste in their mouth, that didn't know this full story, because we didn't tell anyone exactly what happened and how this rolled out. I'm gonna put it on Facebook. It's gonna obviously be on my YouTube channel. They did post a bunch of 1-star reviews on Google and Yelp. I told them that they shouldn't have. So what happened? Lori's probably got scooped up in that. But guess what, Dave? This one won't. This one's going to be on my personal YouTube channel. It's all based on facts. It's all based on your emails. It's all based on my emails and contracts. And this one won't disappear. This one will be up. Maybe I'll even create a website. So we'll wrap it up with the last email from Dave and Jess. This one was just from Dave. And it was titled Refund. And he does reference the refunds that we, the 3 deposits that we made. But I just want to drag your attention to the last note again. This is the guy who will be in charge of your big day. I don't like to tell you I told you so, but I just can't resist. Attached is a photo taken Friday evening, the exact location you wanted your entire wedding set up before I, quote, breached with a laughing face your contract. Actually, it's your contract, Dave, not mine. I paid. You created the terms. So before I breached, laughing face, your contract, there was a flood-free backup plan. So I don't even know. I'm going to wrap it there. It's just a bunch of gook from that guy. And ended on this note around the education and essentially why your hands and my hands and our hands were tied being on the other end of this contract. So Michigan contract law. Luckily, my buddy, John, you're looking at him. He's standing directly behind me. So my lawyer was my best man. Thank you, John. I appreciate everything you did. And even though it didn't turn out, I think, the way that we wanted to, it actually turned out better. So thank you. But the way Michigan law, the way he educated me with Michigan law, contract law, is that if I wanted to sue Dave, I would have to go find a new venue. And let's say that venue costs $30,000. The venue, the law is pretty clear. It has to be a like venue. So I couldn't go to an indoor venue, or I couldn't go to a like a boat style venue. I would have to go to another outdoor type venue, maybe like Stony Creek or the conservatory, and I think that's like Farmington Hills or wherever that is, Bloomfield Hills. A like venue. Keep in mind, this is peak COVID season. That was impossible. So trying to find even a like venue would have been nearly impossible. And my losses there were tied to contract law. If I would have had to pay, let's say, $15,000 for that venue, I could have sued Dave for the difference, for $5,000, right? The original invoice was about $10,000. I could sue him for $5,000. But good luck trying to, arrange all of that in just a couple of days. Now, the second piece of that is you can sue him for pain and suffering and for other damages, but that's a separate, I'm pretty sure that's a civil suit. That's a tort claim, T-O-R-T, tort claim. So now you have to go to small claims court, and maybe it's not civil, excuse me for saying that, but if it is, that'd be great, but it's small claims. So now you have to sue him for small claims, and it is a winnable case. I did talk to another lawyer who said this is winnable, but is it worth it to you? Is this something that you really want to do? And I didn't, because here's the thing. If one bride and groom watch this video and go, this dude's nuts, there's 10 G's. If 10 watch it, that's 100 G's. So my goal is, if just one bride and groom could watch this and go, well, this isn't where we want to go, I've accomplished my goal. And my goal isn't to ruin a Michigan business. My goal is to educate bride and grooms and people looking to book this place for what you're getting yourself into. They ruined our big day. Well, almost ruined it. Actually made it better. But I hope you see who you'll be dealing with if you do choose to book with Youngblood Vineyards. With that, we're almost at 15 minutes. I said there was going to be the little education piece. Hopefully that makes sense. The contract law piece as well as the tort piece. And have a great wedding or birthday or bar mitzvah or whatever it might be, wherever you choose to have it. And thanks for watching.